live and archived games. Read about the teams and players. Relive the big moments. Every season, the Trib Live High School Sports Network is your home for high school sports. The best seat in the house is on Trib HSSN.
Welcome into world headquarters of the Trib Live High School Sports Network. I'm Don Rebel, your band leader on Friday nights, at least this time of night, late night with Donnie Rebel. WPIAL Scoreboard Show Week 5. We're halfway through now. This pretty much in the books, although there are 4 games slated for Saturday, a busy Saturday around the WPIAL, but that'll be it. We'll be into the second half. Final month as well begins next week as we begin October football. All right, a lot of scores already in, so let's run them down for you, and we got some recaps as well. Coming up, including a recap of this matchup, 6A versus 5A non-conference. Norwin defeats North Hills 21-17. The Knights improving to 4-2, but it could be a costly victory. Again, we'll get more on that in a moment. 5A Allegheny 6 Conference finally opening up in South Fayette. As expected, a winner at Baldwin tonight, 49-13. 5A Northeast Conference, Pine Richland 63 and Fox Chapel 3. Rams improved to 3-0. The Foxes in conference dropped to 0-3. Class 4A finally beginning conference play tonight. Finals from the Big 6 Conference. Thomas Jefferson, a winner at Bell Vernon, was close though, 14-10, the final score. And Chartiers Valley, like Thomas Jefferson, improves to 5-1. Colts 55, Laurel Highlands 7. Parkway Conference, Montour wins their conference opener at home over Blackhawk, 28-7. And West Allegheny pummels Ambridge 70-0. Greater Allegheny Conference openers. Finals in McKeesport defeats Hampton 46-7. And Indiana evens the record overall at 3-3. They knock off 21-14 Knights, still winless on the season. Class 3A Western Hills Conference, Beaver keeps McGuffey winless, a 42-6 victory on the road for the Bobcats, who improved to 2-1 in the Western Hills. Freeport remains undefeated. Valley remains winless. Freeport 42, Valley 7. Highlands a 35-0 winner over Deer Lakes. The Golden Rams are 2-1 in the Allegheny 7 Conference. Interstate Conference openers, Elizabeth Forward over Greensburg-Salem, 49-7, fifth win in 6 games for the Warriors. Mount Pleasant improves to 4-2 overall, winning their conference opener, 41-7 over York. 2A non-conference, Washington improves to 5-1 overall. They beat South Park 48-7, third straight loss for the 2A defending champion Eagles. Class 2A Midwestern Athletic Conference, New Brighton ends a 2-game skid. They win their first conference game, 14-12 over Elwood City. In doing so, they hand the Wolverines their first conference loss. Century Conference last night, Seton LaSalle improves to 3-0. Rebels over Waynesburg Central, 41-16. Tonight, Black Hills Conference, Bishop Canevin 32, Chartiers used to nothing. The Crusaders are now 2-0 in conference play. 2-0 is also the record for Neshannock in the Big 7 Conference. Lancers win at Shenango 48-7. Laurel also improves to 2-0 with a 50-0 whitewash of Northgate. If you missed it, Eastern Conference, Leechburg and Springdale, the latest game to be postponed because the Dynamos did not have enough healthy players. Tri-County South, all 4 games have gone final. California 53, Mapletown nothing. Jefferson Morgan remains undefeated, 40-6 over West Green. Avella back on the winning track. They improved to 5-1 with a 20-17 win at Beth Center. And it was Bentworth 35, Carmichael 6. Last night in the City League, big win for Westinghouse, 44-16. They improved to 3-0 in the City League, 6-0 overall. Alderdice falls to 2-1 and 4-2 overall. Alderdice plays University Prep next week. The Wildcats have yet to lose in conference play, and they play Brashear. They played Brashear tonight, waiting for that final score. And then in 2 weeks, it could be winner take all, University Prep against Westinghouse. More final scores coming in. We'll run those down for you. Just a quick note before we get our first recap. 26 seconds left. Marino Graham, the freshman sensation at Newcastle, scores, and Newcastle leading Aliquippa with less than a half minute to play, 18-12, as the Canes, they got off to a great start last year, got into conference play, and then they went down straight down the hill. Doesn't appear that this Newcastle team is going to do that. They're seconds away from knocking off Aliquippa. All right, let's get to our first recap. Sean Saputo joins us. He had the call on the network of the 6A, 5A non-conference game, entertaining matchup at Martorelli Stadium. Norwin takes care of business, 21-17, improving to 4-2, Sean.
Yeah, it was a good start for the North Hills Indians, going down on the first drive to set up Andrew Greenland for a 38-yard field goal and move ahead 3-0 on with 9:10 to go in the first quarter. It was set up by a 53-yard fake punt run by Israel Armstead that got all the way down to the Norwin 20. Offense would sputter, but still get 3 out of the drive. Norwin then, they would march down the field. They would miss a field goal, but it would be until the second quarter, a minute and 20 seconds in, where Giovanni Rothroth ran in from 2 yards out to give Norwin a 7-3 lead after stopping North Hills, came back out on offense, and on 4th down and 4 from the North Hills 16-yard line, Josh Lenhart finds Zach Pauling from 16 yards out to make it 14-3 in favor of the Knights. Well, North Hills wasted no time. After a touchback, one play, 80 yards, Kelly McCarthy finds Jack Broderick for the touchdown, made it 14-10. And then on the ensuing drive, Norwin once again pushing right down the field, but this time Lenhart throws an interception. It was returned 47 yards back to the Norwin 38-yard line. And with a minute 39 left on one play, 38 yards, McCarthy this time finds Justice Green to make it 17-14, a score that North Hills would hold into halftime and then hold the majority of the third quarter. And the final score of the game came with 29 seconds left in the third. Rothroth, his second touchdown run of the night from 1 yard out, and that came on a shortened field after a Norwin blocked punt, and it would end up being the game-winning score of the night. The big differentiation in this game, and when you hear this and think of a 4-point deficit in this game, it's kind of wild. Norwin tonight, 377 total yards of offense, and they do so on 86 total plays in this game, 297 on the ground and 80 in the air. Rothroth, 43 carries, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Lenhart, 9 of 12 passing for 69 yards, a touchdown and an interception. On the flip side, North Hills barely got to touch the field on offense in this game. They ran 30 plays the entire game, 17 in the first half, 13 in the second half. They were limited to just 33 total yards of offense in the second half, 100 after 185 in the first half, and those came on the 2 one-score touchdowns. McCarthy ends the night 2 of 8 passing for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. The leading rusher on the night was 53 yards. That fake punt run by Israel Armstead for North Hills. But really here, the key of the night and what to focus on leading into next week for the Norwin Knights, who improved to 4-2, and they get ready for a rivalry matchup at home against Hempfield, is the star quarterback Tristan Tavares left the game in the first quarter with what appeared to be a lower leg injury. He did not return in this contest. Last year, he went down against North Allegheny a week prior. They lost last week. It's happened last year against North Allegheny. This year, it happens 1 week later at North Hills. He is out. who knows how long. That's something to keep an eye on as this Class 6A race heatens up. So they have Hempfield next week in a rivalry matchup. North Hills, though, 1-5 overall now. They head back on the road. They face the Plum Mustangs in a very important matchup as North Hills is 1-1 in Class 5A's Northeast Conference, and Plum sits at 1-2 right now, Don.
Obviously concerns. We hope that he is okay, and that is going to be one of the bigger matchups between those two teams. Two programs, Norwin and Hempfield, that have struggled, whether they be in 6A or 5A, over the years. And now you're looking at a situation where Norwin at 1-1 in the conference. This game obviously didn't affect that record. Hempfield 1-2, and Cannon McMillan at 1-2 after the Big Macs lost to the Spartans tonight. That game's for third place. It'll be the first team beside Central or North Allegheny to get to 2 wins in a big matchup. Hopefully he's okay, able to play. If not next week, at least come back soon enough for the Knights.
Well, my hope for the Knights fans out there is, considering the fact he did go down and not come out, tonight was a non-conference game. So whether it was a precautionary thing, whether it was an actual injury, let's all hope it leans on the side of just being a precaution to where, you know what, this game doesn't mean anything. You got rolled up on. Let's get you out. You can be okay, and we'll get you back ready for next week.
Agree. Sean, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Don. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Sean Saputo with our first recap. Good game at Martirelli. Norwin beats North Hills, and both teams with big conference games next week. Final is in from Newcastle, Taggart Stadium. The Red Hurricanes win 18-12. The freshman quarterback, Marino Graham, scores a 7-yard run with 26 seconds left. Newcastle 18, Aliquippa 12. That's a Parkway Conference opener. Puts the Quips now at 5-1 overall and 1-0. They will be hosting Montour, one of the big games in Week 6. Montour was the winner tonight over Blackhawks, so both those teams 1-0 in conference play. Aliquippa falls to 0-1, obviously. They are 3-2 overall. Newcastle 18 and Aliquippa 12. All right, let's get we'll just run down all the scores. We have people joining us as well. Finals from 6A. Hempfield defeats Cannon McMillan 38-27. First 6A victory for the Spartans, who improved to 4-2. The loss snaps a 3-game win streak for Cannon McMillan. They are now 1-1 in Class 6A. You just heard the recap. Norwin, a 21-17 winner over at North Hills. Tristan Tavares, their outstanding quarterback, hurt in the game. Hopefully ready to go next week when Norwin will be home to take on rival Hempfield. 5A Allegheny 6 Conference. Peters Township comes back. They knock off Upper St. Clair 24-20. The Indians remain undefeated at 6-0, obviously winning their conference opener. First loss of the season for Upper St. Clair, who led for a majority of that first half, especially. The Panthers now 5-1. 24-20, Peters Township knocks off Upper St. Clair. Moon, similar score over Bethel Park, 23-20. We talked, even going back to last year, but this year, another outstanding non-conference season for these teams from the Allegheny 6 Conference outside of Baldwin. Let's take the Highlanders sort of out of this picture. 5 teams, I think, were combined 21-4 coming into tonight. And when they start going head-to-head, you're going to get some good football. We have seen that here. 24-20, Peters Township over Upper St. Clair. 23-20, Moon over Bethel Park. Hawks fall to 4-2. Tigers, after losing to Seneca Valley last week, improve to 4-2. 5-1, that's the record of South Fayette. Lions win at Baldwin 49-13. The beat goes on, unfortunately, for the Highlanders. All right, Big East Conference final score, Armstrong 29, Gateway 28. It is the first conference loss for the Gators. Meanwhile, the Riverhawks are now 2-0 in conference play, 3-3 overall. 29-28, Armstrong defeats Gateway. Riverhawks a big one next week as they host Woodland Hills. Kisk area wins their second of the season, their first conference game, 14-7 over struggling Franklin Regional. Panthers remain winless. 5A Northeast Conference, Pine Richland crushes Fox Chapel 63-3. And one more final from Class 5A's Big East Conference, Latrobe 33, Woodland Hills 33. Don't want to say that wrong. Woodland Hills 33, Latrobe 9. Wolverines now 2-0 in the Big East, tied with Armstrong for first place. They're 4-2 overall. Latrobe falls to 1-2 and 2-4. 33-9, Woodland Hills knocks off Latrobe. Non-conference in 5A, Penn Trafford 33, Plum 14. The Warriors are now 5-1 overall. Mustangs fall to 2-4. Class 4A, these are all conference openers. Thomas Jefferson edges Bell Vernon by a score of 14-10. Jaguars now 5-1 overall. Chartiers Valley 5-1 overall. The Colts win at Laurel Highlands by a score of 55-7. And Trinity, a winner in Monongahela, they win at Ringgold 48-14. Parkway Conference, just talked about it. Newcastle scores late, defeats Aliquippa 18-12. Montour 28, Blackhawk 7, and West Allegheny all over Ambridge 70-0. Greater Allegheny Conference, Mars 46, West Mifflin 0. The Fighting Planets are now 5-1 overall. McKeesport even at 3-3. They win at home over Hampton 46-7. And Indiana keeps Knock winless 21-14 final score. 3A Western Hills Conference. It was Beaver 42 and McGuffey 6. Allegheny 7 Conference, Freeport 42, Valley 7, Highlands 35-0 over Deer Lakes. Interstate Conference, Elizabeth Forward wins their conference opener 49-7 over Greensburg-Salem. Mount Pleasant wins big at home over York 41-7. 2A non-conference, Washington 48, South Park 7. 2A Midwestern Athletic Conference, New Brighton 14, Elwood City 12, first conference loss for the Wolverines. Century Conference, Seton LaSalle last night 41-16 over Waynesburg Central. And Allegheny Conference in 2A, South Allegheny now a perfect 6-0. They win 62-14 over Ligonier Valley. Class A Black Hills, Bishop Canevin 32-0 over Chartiers Houston. Big 7 Conference, Neshannock 48-7 over Shenango. Laurel 50, Northgate 0. Eastern Conference, Clairton crushes Jeanette 57-0. Tri-County South California 53-0 over Mapletown. Jefferson Morgan remains undefeated 40-6 over West Green. They haven't lost a regular season game since 2023. Avella back on the winning track 20-17 over Beth Center. Bentworth 35, Carmichael's 6. So there you go, caught up to date. We got, even as I was running them down, some more scores coming in, but we got a couple recaps. Let's first head out to Westmoreland County. Mitch Montani joins us. He had the call tonight of the Hempfield-Cannon Mac game. Big Mac's win streak ends at 3 and a much-needed 6A victory for Hempfield tonight, Mitch.
Absolutely, Don, and it was a good ball game back and forth throughout, but the second quarter, and we'll talk about that in a moment, was really the difference maker for the Hempfield Spartans, who win it tonight 38-27 over the Cannon Mac Big Macs. Cannon Mac got things going early. They faked a punt and then set up a touchdown. Ty Jansma found TJ Sabatucci from 37 yards out. It was 7-0 Cannon Mac. But Hempfield would respond right away. A 4-yard touchdown pass from Dom Dietrich to his wide receiving target. That would be Jack Kopis to tie the game at 7-all. Cannon Mack would have another Sabatucci touchdown on a trick play. Brian Schmeltz took the pass from Jansma, and then he threw it 67 yards to find Sabatucci. It was 14-7 Cannon Mack after one. But as I mentioned a moment ago, the second quarter, all the difference for Hempfield. They would get a field goal from Sawyer Luthold to make it a 14-10 ball game. After a Cannon Mack punt, a 1-yard touchdown run from Aiden Steinbeiser gave Hempfield a 17-14 lead, their first lead of the night. A fumble by Cannon Mack set up a Dietrich touchdown to Lucas Simmons from 27 yards out. And then another Cannon Mack fumble set up a 28-yard touchdown pass. Same guy to the same guy, Dietrich to Simmons. It was 31-14 at halftime. 3 turnovers in that second quarter for Cannon Mack, 2 fumbles and an interception late. And they get outscored in that second quarter, 24-0, and trail by 17 at the half. Cannon Mack would get a pair of field goals in the third quarter. It was 31-20 after 3 quarters of play. Reese Mentz would knock through 2 field goals, but Hempfield would eat up a lot of clock with some long possessions, and they ended up scoring with another Dietrich touchdown pass to Simmons from 10 yards out with a little over 8 minutes to play. It was 38-20 at that point, and then Jansma from 65 yards out found Sabatucci for the third time to get Cannon Mack back within 11, but they lose tonight, Dawn, 38-27. Cannon Mack now 1-1 in the Quad County Conference. Hempfield, as you mentioned before, gets that elusive first conference win. 1-2 in the conference are the Spartans now. Dietrich, 350 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns for Simmons on the Hempfield side, and TJ Sabatucci, the star for Cannon Mack, well over 200 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns for him. But we'll see if the Big Macs can respond next week. They're going to take on Seneca Valley, whereas Norwin will be the scheduled opponent for Hempfield.
Give you a couple updates. The other 2 6A games are in the fourth quarter. Mount Lebanon looks like they're headed for their first victory. They have a 34-20 lead over Seneca Valley with about 4.5 minutes left. And Central Catholic, this game was a battle. They were up 7-6 at the half. It is now 21-6. Central Catholic leads North Allegheny. So if those scores continue, Central Catholic 3-0, North Allegheny 2-1, and then the logjam, as we've talked about all year. You have Cannon Mack at 1-1, Norwin 1-1, Hempfield 1-2. Big game between those 2 next week, and Mount Lebanon would be 1-2. So a tale of 2 races. We'll see what happens. 1 race likely to be decided here tonight if Central Catholic holds on. Mitch, thank you, sir.
Absolutely, Don. Have a good weekend.
All right. Enjoy Ireland. No, he's not going.
I wish.
All right, pal. We'll see you.
Go Steelers. See ya.
Exactly. Mitch Montani. So entertaining 6A after and again, it's been this way for a long time. You got 2 teams battling for 1 and 2, and then the rest fighting for 3 and 4. Predictable, yeah, but still could be very exciting. Very exciting game tonight in the Western Hills of Pittsburgh. Kyle Dawson, Greg Smith had the call of a Allegheny 6 conference opener. We welcome them both in. Guys, I mean, there's so much hyperbole nowadays in sports broadcasting, especially, but even on this high school level, where this is great, that is great, game of the year, blah, 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 blah. And I've always tried to sort of curtail that, all that stuff. But the excitement for this Allegheny 6 conference, we saw it was real last year. It's real again this year. And fantastic action. Your game, which you're going to recap here in a moment, and the other big game went down to the wire. Peters Township edges Upper St. Clair 24-20, and we're off to the races with these teams going head-to-head against each other every week.
That we are, Don. And for the record, I would not let Bill Hartlip steal you from me for the third straight week, so that's why I decided to jump on with Greg here. Plus, the game ended like 35 minutes earlier than it did last week for us.
There you go.
So there you go. But, yeah, impressive hype for the Allegheny Six. It certainly lived up to it here at Tiger Stadium tonight as the Moon Tigers come away with a last 16-second victory on a 36-yard field goal by Evan Sankovic. We'll get to that in a moment. It was a great start for the Moon Tigers. They led 14-0 after a pair of Davion Taylor touchdown runs from 2 and 1 yard out, one which was the third play from scrimmage in the game tonight. The second one was on the second play of the second quarter, so the Tigers raced out to a quick lead. I've already chatted with both coaches. Phil Pekich wasn't thrilled with his staff himself and kind of what they were doing at the beginning of the game, but they certainly did hold in, and they came around. They scored pretty quickly after that second Taylor touchdown. David Dennison with a 3-yard touchdown run with 8:21 to go in the second quarter. That made it a 14-7 game with the point after. Andrew Cross, though, immediate answer, and that was one of the things I chatted with Ryan Lynn about post-game, was that quick answer to put him right back up. Andrew Cross, a 70-yard touchdown run that made it 20-7 after the PAT hit off the upright. That's what the score was at the half. We had talked about in the halftime show going into the third quarter, Bethel Park was getting the football to start the second half. They needed a response. They got one. Tush push for Evan Devine from a yard out. The PAT made it Will Sabatis with an 18-yard run to make it 20-13. The PAT was no good. Then the tush push was to tie the game. With Jackson's PAT made it 20-20 with 7.5 minutes to go. Moon had a couple chances to go win the football game after that, and on the second one that they had, they punched it through the uprights. The Sankovic 36-yard field goal was the difference. Andrew Cross was great tonight, 100 yards through the air plus and 100-plus yards on the ground. Antoine Arnett had a 60-yard run on the first play from scrimmage tonight. He ended up over 116 yards. And I think the most impressive thing we talked about in postgame, and Evan Devine was really impressive, the quarterback for Bethel Park tonight, close to 250 yards through the air. But Moon did a great job against David Dennison tonight. Third leading rusher in the district coming into the game with 900 yards. He was held under 80 yards on 25 carries tonight. And really, Greg, that's the story of the game, as we talked on our post-game show, holding him, and it's the pressure in the defense brand, the defense that Moon plays and has played under Ryan Lynn for 9 years now, but holding Dennison and getting enough offensively, it's a big win for the Tigers.
Yeah, no question, Kyle, and that's exactly, Don, we talked about it last week, prepping for this game was the high-powered Bethel offense, or was it going to be the stingy Moon defense? Well, turns out it was the high-powered Moon offense in that first half. They looked really unstoppable, had Bethel, I think, really on their skates for really the entirety of the first half. Again, to Kyle's point, give Bethel a lot of credit the way they schemed back into this game despite Dennison's inability to really run and Moon's great job of bottling him up. But at the end of the day, this game always felt like Moon was kind of working towards something, and in Kyle's point, in the final 16 seconds, able to get that field goal and punch it through for their first conference win.
It was the third chance for Sankovic trying to put it through the uprights. He had missed from 41 and 44 in the first half, including one at the horn of the first half. But the 36-yard field goal is the one that ends up making the difference in a 23-20 Moon win. The Bethel Park Blackhawks will probably fall out of the top 5 this week in Class 5A, but they'll get a breather next week against Baldwin at home. And the Moon Tigers will be at Peters Township. I talked with Ryan Lynn after the game, Dawn, and I said, all right, you get to enjoy this one tonight. And then the gauntlet continues next week at Peters Township. A couple of 1-0 football teams in the Allegheny Six. Should be another great game at Peters next week, and we'll see if this Moon team has another one up its sleeve.
Yeah, outside of that one breather, as you called it, that being Baldwin, the rest of these conference games are going to be gauntlets. Look at Kyle and I, boys in the band there.
Got to do it.
Yeah, got the memo or something. Very impressive bounce back for Moon. That was a unexpected loss to Seneca Valley last week. Maybe caught looking ahead, but, man, they really answered the bell tonight with a big home victory over Bethel Park. Kyle and Greg, great job. We'll see you guys next week.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Don.
Have a great weekend.
All right. Kyle Dawson, Greg Smith, the call on a good one. Moon 23-20 over Bethel Park. I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. That game, by the way, was sponsored by Moon Honda. Moon Honda, AHN, Edgar Snyder and Associates, all helping to sponsor our high school coverage here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network this season. All right, some more scores to run down, but right now let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
Back at World Headquarters of the Trib Live High School Sports Network, I'm Don Rebel. Our producer extraordinaire is Mr. Christopher Lackner. He also will not be going to Ireland this weekend. All right, here are the final scores that we have in Class 6A. 38-27, Hempfield over Cannon McMillan. Baldwin or Mount Lebanon has increased their lead over Seneca Valley. It's now 41-20. North Allegheny is threatening. They're inside the Central Catholic 5, but they trailed 21-6 in the fourth quarter, the Vikings and the Tigers, for first place. And in all likelihood, the 6A regular season championship. It may just determine who wears the dark jerseys if and when they meet again at Pine Richland, but it's still important. 5A or Allegheny 6 Conference. These are openers. 24-20, Peters Township knocks off Upper St. Clair. They knock the Panthers from the ranks of the unbeaten. They remain undefeated. Peters Township does. The Indians are now 6-0. Moon 23, Bethel Park 20, and South Fayette 49-13 winners over Baldwin. 5A Northeast Conference, Pine Richland now 3-0 atop the conference. They crush Fox Chapel 63-3. Big East Conference, Woodland Hills 33, Latrobe 6. The Wolverines now 2-0, tied for first place atop the conference with Armstrong. The Riverhawks also 2-0 after a 29-28 victory over Gateway. Kiski area over Franklin Regional 14-7. 5A non-conference, Penn Trafford now 5-1. They win at Plum 33-14. Class 4A, these are all conference openers in the Big Six, Parkway, and the GAC. Big Six, Thomas Jefferson wasn't easy. They win at the beach, though, 14-12, their fifth win in 6 games. That's the same overall record for Chartiers Valley. The Colts win big at Laurel Highlands, 55-7, and Trinity, a winner at Ringgold, 48-14. Hillers next week will host Thomas Jefferson. Parkway Conference, Marino Graham, the fabulous freshman quarterback, scores from 7 yards out with 26 seconds left. That's the difference. Newcastle 18, Aliquippa 12. Montour 28, Blackhawk 7. Montour at Newcastle next week. West Allegheny 70 and Ambridge nothing. Greater Allegheny Conference openers, Mars 46-0 over West Mifflin as the Fighting Planets improve to 5-1. McKeesport a winner in their conference opener, 46-7 over Hampton, and it was Indiana 21, Knock 14. The Indians now overall are 3-3. The Knights remain winless at 0-6. All right, 3A's Western Hills Conference, Avonworth remains perfect. They go to Sarge Albert and win over Central Valley, 34-6, first conference loss for the Warriors. Beaver 42, McGuffey 6. The Highlanders remain winless. Beaver now 2-1 in conference play. Allegheny 7 Conference, Freeport a perfect 6-0, 3-0 in the conference, 42-7 winners over Valley. Highlands 35, Deer Lakes nothing, and Burrell defeats East Allegheny in a dandy, 29-28. The final score. The Buccaneers win to improve to 1-1. East Allegheny falls to 1-2 in conference play. Interstate Conference openers, Elizabeth Forward 49, Greensburg Salem 7. Southmoreland remains undefeated, 6-0 now for the Squaws. 23-11 winners at Derry, and it was Mount Pleasant 41, York 7. 3A non-conference, Imani Christian down early, comes back and remains undefeated by defeating North Catholic 36-16, first loss of the year for the Trojans. 2A non-conference, Washington 48, South Park 7. Midwestern Athletic Conference in Class 2A, Western Beaver remains undefeated, 48-19 winners over Riverside. It was New Brighton 14, Elwood City 12. Wolverines' first conference loss, Western Beaver all alone in first place in the MAC. Century Conference tonight, Keystone Oaks a winner over Carleton 42-18. They improved to 3-0, tied with Seton LaSalle for first place in the Century Conference, a half game ahead of 2-0 Washington. Allegheny Conference, South Allegheny now 6-0. Gladiators win big over Ligonier Valley, 62-14 to improve to 3-0 in conference play. Class A Black Hills Conference, Bishop Canavan 32, Chartiers Houston nothing. The Crusaders now 2-0 in conference play. Cornell beats Sarah Catholic 47-18. So the Raiders improved to 2-1 in conference play. The Eagles now 0-2. Big Seven Conference, both Neshannock and Laurel win to improve to 2-0. Neshannock 48-7 over Shenango. Laurel 50-0 over Northgate. Class A Eastern Conference, Clareton 57, Jeanette nothing. Tri-County South California 53-0 over Mapletown. Jefferson Morgan 40, West Green 6. Avella 20-17 over Beth Center, and Bentworth 35, Carmichael 6. Non-conference Southside 21 and Monessen 7. City League, Westinghouse big win last night, 44-16 over Alderdice to go to 3-0. This evening it was University Prep 30 and Brashear 7. The Wildcats improve to 3-0 as well. All right, let's get to our couple other independent finals. Uniontown falls to Martins Ferry, Ohio. This game sort of came together rather quickly. Uniontown was supposed to host Carrick. They had that unfortunate incident at Carrick High School earlier in the week. So they decided they would not be playing this week, the football team. Meanwhile, Martins Ferry was supposed to host Bronzeville. Bronzeville didn't have enough healthy players. So Martins Ferry, Uniontown get together. Just all fits together like a puzzle. Martins Ferry, 59. Uniontown, 13. Red Raiders now 2-4. The Purple Riders of Martins Ferry High School. And Butler improves to 4-2. They win over Collinsville, 44-27. All right, Alex Lyons joins us now. He had the call of the matchup in Class 4A. All 4A, these were all conference openers. Big Six Conference, Thomas Jefferson, Bell Vernon. It just still does. It's sort of like the Steelers, you know. We're nobody's happy, yet they're sitting there at 2-1 and in first place. I'm sure Jaguars Nation, nobody is happy, but yet they're sitting there at 1-0, 5-1. They win tonight at Bell Vernon by a score of 14-10.
Yeah, it was not pretty or easy tonight for Thomas Jefferson. And, anytime these two programs get together, there's going to be sparks, there's going to be fireworks. And that's what we had here tonight. Thomas Jefferson, they've been dealing with injuries, got a couple reinforcements back in Emmett Forte and Deacon Camberis, but they left the game with Nate Costa and Jackson Coling both on the shelf. As both teams started off really well offensively with 8-minute drives in the opening half of play. Bell Vernon got the kickoff. They went 8 minutes, 8 seconds, 59 yards, converting on a couple of third downs. And eventually it was a 37-yard field goal by Preston Rathway that put Bell Vernon up 3-0. And the Leps would get the ball right back and march again all the way down to the Thomas Jefferson 8-yard line, facing 4th down and 1 after a 34-yard pitch and catch from Wade to Petrosky. But the entire defensive front for Thomas Jefferson stiffened, converging on Petrosky. He was stopped for no gain, and Thomas Jefferson would take over at their own 8-yard line, and they would get their 8-minute drive of the opening half. They would go 8 minutes, 11 seconds, 92 yards, and it was an interesting drive. 30-yard pitch and catch. Cooling would find his man in the forms of Volamino. And then on 3rd and 1, David Berkstead stopped Eber for a loss, but a 4th down and 2 12-yard run by Eber would eventually keep the drive going. Cam Janko would sack Cooling, eventually leading to what would be an attempted 37-yard field goal by Sam Wessel. Well, we thought 5-yard penalty would back it up and make it 43. Wessel would kind of shank it, just came out awkwardly, a low liner, never had a chance. But on the play, Don, David Berkstead called for roughing the snapper. So 15 yards, automatic first down, and Tyler Eber in a spread out formation would run right up the gut from 17 yards and get Thomas Jefferson a 7-3 lead. On the ensuing drive, Jeffrey Rabel, well, he was splitting time at quarterback to start the year. Now he's starting in the secondary. Came up with a big interception of Curdy Wade, one of 3 Bell Vernon turnovers tonight. But that would lead to a 24-yard field goal attempt for Sam Wessel. Wessel would push it right, and we would stay at a 7-3 game going into the half, thanks to Jeffrey Rabel and Jarrett Beatcoat. On the final play of the half, Chase Petrosky took one left side, was able to get by the last line of defense in Jeffrey Rabel, but Rabel got just enough of Petrosky to slow him down, and cutting across the field, Beatcoat tracked him down at the TJ 20 to keep it 7-3 at the half. And it would stay that way for quite some time until Bell Vernon would get the ball and start moving it once again, as Wade would find Mahalko for 17, but then they'd go backwards. Dom Volamino, 2 TFLs on the drive, and eventually Bell Vernon would have to settle for a 52-yard field goal attempt for Preston Rathway. He was good from 49 earlier this year, but it was a bad snap. Shawley couldn't corral Zach Villa, punished him into the dirt, and just like that, Thomas Jefferson would get the football back. And Thomas Jefferson, though, would be able to drive down deep into Bell Vernon real estate. And once again, the Bell Vernon defense stiffened as Ian Tater was able to strip it away from Jackson Cooling on 4th down and 4. Cooling was hurt on that play. He would not return. Bell Vernon would get the ball back and go 76 yards. It was a 74-yard pitch and catch on 3rd and 8. Wade to DeCenzo to put Bell Vernon up. And Bell Vernon looked like they were going to seal the deal. They got the ball back after stopping Thomas Jefferson on a DeCenzo pass breakup, but it was negative plays. After picking up a first down, we saw multiple penalties on Bell Vernon. Wade tried the quarterback draw, lost the football. Zach Villa would recover, and TJ on 3rd down and 8 would find Volamino from 31 yards out to give them the lead for good. Bell Vernon one last look at it, but it was Emmett Forte sealing the deal with an interception. Wasn't pretty or easy. Bell Vernon coughed it up 3 times. TJ left with injuries, but they also leave the beach with their 3rd win in a row against their rivals in Bell Vernon. They'll go into Trinity next week to take on Jonah Williamson and the Hillers. Bell Vernon now all of a sudden all that more important when they take on a revigorated Chartiers Valley team next week.
Yeah, Jonah Williamson, big game tonight for Trinity over Ringgold, so that'll be one of the matchups to watch, Hillers and Jaguars in week 6. Alex, thanks, pal.
Yep, thanks, Don. Have a good weekend.
You do the same. A couple more finals, and then we might try to squeeze in a break here. Albert Gallatin, yes, they're playing an independent schedule, but they are now 6-0. Now, remember, realignment's coming up, so that's now's the time where these schools that are playing independent decide, no, we're going to stay independent, or we want to come back to the district. The welcome wagon is out for all these schools to return. Now we might lose some schools that are currently members of the WPIAL in football, but that remains to be seen. But they are now 6-0, 63-56, a wild one down in Maryland against the Allegheny Campers. Albert Gallatin is victorious. Hopewell is back on the winning track. They end a 2-game losing streak, 48-0 winners over Quaker Valley, and those 2 6A games have gone final. Central Catholic defeats North Allegheny 21-6. Battle indeed. Vikings now 3-0, 5-1 overall. 2-1, 5-1 is the record for North Allegheny, 21-6. Vikings over the Tigers, and Mount Lebanon wins their first of the season, 41-20 at Seneca Valley. The Raiders fall to 0-2, 2-4, Mount Lebanon 1-2, and 1-5. All right, we will take a break. When we return, run down the scores. We still are expecting some more recaps as well before we get to the bottom of the hour and the start of the Week 5 roundtable. It's the Week 5 Scoreboard Show here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
This is Miles. He needs PT. Jess needs training. And Max needs both. And while they're all athletic, at AHN Sports Medicine, we know they each need a little something different to hit their goals. Our doctors and specialists pinpoint that difference and make a personalized plan to improve Miles's backswing and Max's throwing arm and Jess's form. Because at AHN Sports Medicine, we see you.
The Rebel Yell podcast with Don Rebel happens 4 times a week. Visit with some of the WPIAL's best players in the Player of the Week podcast. Some of the district's top coaches are featured in the Team of the Week podcast. A weekly preview podcast looks at some of the best matchups in the WPIAL. And finally, a Friday night recap podcast with scores and statistical highlights. Find the Rebel Yell podcast on hssn.triblive.com.
And now on Spotify.
Do you need custom printed materials for your school or organization? Hosting a fundraiser or special event? PrintSource can help. Visit printpittsburgh.com for a free quote on yard signs or banners, flyers and stickers, invitations, program books and tickets, even yearbooks. We are your single source solution for printed materials, signage, and so much more. Visit us online at printpittsburgh.com. PrintSource. Design, print, deliver.
Hi, I'm Adam Goodnack, and I'm a student in Seton Hill University's Wukich School of Nursing. I did my clinical rounds throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and it strengthened my belief in the path that I chose. I could really feel that I was making an impact. The faculty in my coursework at Seton Hill has prepared me to dive right into my field. I've received personalized support and expert guidance. I'm moving forward as a nurse of tomorrow at Seton Hill University.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
All right, back at World Headquarters, Don Rebel with you. We thank you, whether you're checking us out on Facebook, online at tribhssn.triblive.com, or on the X Twitter. We appreciate you spending some Friday night time with us here, the old gang, doing what we do best, providing you the outstanding high school football coverage. Great team that we're blessed to have here under the HSSN umbrella, and Chris Lackner as well. All right, let's bring in Randy Gore. The game just concluded. The matchup, and it turned out to be a dandy. Central Catholic, North Allegheny. Special thanks, by the way, to Athletic Director Bob Bizzuto for allowing us to video stream that game with the help of course, Randy Gore, who had the call. And it turned out to be a really good game. Central Catholic wins 21-6 in the battle for the regular season title. The rest of the teams fighting each other for third and fourth place is fun, but this is the big one, Randy.
Indeed. And, these teams, when they meet up with each other, we've seen some games in the past, championships where it was 44-41. We've also seen some games where it had been a defensive struggle, 7-3, 7-6. This one started out as a defensive struggle, but Central Catholic in the end pulls away for a 21-6 victory. It was just 7-3 at the half, and Central Catholic was able to strike first, as it was a defensive battle in the first period, but Central Catholic, with a 4-play, 40-yard drive, it was field position for the Vikings that set up that first score, a 4-play, 40-yard drive, and punching it into the end zone with a 6-yard touchdown run. Roman Thompson made it 7-0 with just 2 seconds to go in the first quarter. North Allegheny able to finally get on the scoreboard late in the first half with 3:36 to go in the second quarter. The Tigers took advantage of a short field as the NA defense set up the offense, and North Allegheny with a 27-yard field goal by Ethan Maravich got on the board, trailing 7-3. That was your score at the half. So as defenses dominated in the first half, in the third quarter, the Vikings had the football first, and they were able to go down the field very quickly. A 3-play, 51-yard drive, punctuated on a 10-yard touchdown run again by Roman Thompson, and it was 14-3 Central Catholic. The Tigers forced a punt on their next possession, and Central Catholic another touchdown via the running game. This time it was the speedster, Jaden Alexander, who has 4.46 speed in the 40-yard dash, and he was able to run away from the NA defense for a 53-yard touchdown run. That made it 21-3 Vikings with 4:03 to go in the third, and Central Catholic's defense, which had permitted only 148 total yards in the game, they would shut down NA for the most part in the remaining minutes of the game. The Tigers, with the help of several personal foul penalties on the Vikings defense, did get one more drive that yielded points. That was with 9:01 to go in the fourth period. The Tigers cut it to a 2-possession game with an Ethan Maravich 25-yard field goal, although the Tigers had a first and goal from the 2, but had to settle for the field goal, and that made it 21-6, so the Tigers would not find the end zone again. Again, Central Catholic defensively limiting NA to just 148 total yards. Luke Rohan, 19 carries for only 40 yards. In contrast, Roman Thompson for Central Catholic, 19 carries for 80 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Jaden Alexander, 7 carries for 60 yards, the majority coming on the 53-yard touchdown run. The only negative for Central Catholic really in this game was the penalties. That's what kind of kept NA hanging around from an offensive standpoint. 10 penalties for 116 yards for the Vikings, as they improve now with their 5th consecutive win to 5-1 overall, 3-0 as they are the pace setters now in Class 6A in the Quad County Conference. Surely the penalties, Coach Lehmeyer will want to clean that up moving forward. But otherwise, again, the Vikings are the pace setters now in Class 6A. They have a non-conference game next week against Shaler. North Allegheny will have another home game, homecoming at Newman Stadium next week against Mount Lebanon, as both teams just try to keep cranking out the wins to remain in that 1 and 2 slot. And obviously that would yield a home playoff game for both. When you get to the WPIAL semifinals, you just jump to that in Class 6A. And as you said, Don, 3 and 4 is it's going to be quite a battle to see how all that shakes down. But in this one, showdown for first place, the Vikings sit alone now atop the conference.
Great job, Randall. Thank you. And again, pass along thanks to Mr. Bizzuto.
I will indeed. Thank you, Don. Have a good weekend.
All right, you do the same. Randy Gore, a very entertaining game. Central Catholic prevails 21-6 over North Allegheny, two of the top teams, the 2 top teams in Class 6A. 2 of the top teams in Class 3A also met. It wasn't a conference game, but it was a non-conference matchup at historic Graben Field. Proper distinction, UPMC, Graham Field in Wilkinsburg. Undefeated North Catholic, undefeated Imani Christian. A tale of 2 games, it appears. Bob Ork was kind enough to join us.
Is this how it worked? 2 of the top teams?
2 of the top teams. That's
meeting
right.
Like this.
You got the hand signals.
So, Don, if I were to tell you that Imani Christian would have 18 penalties for 155 yards, 2 interceptions, and 5 bad snaps for negative 61 yards, you would say North Catholic wins this game, right?
I would call them the New England Patriots of the South.
That's maybe how it started. Didn't finish that way for Imani Christian. 36 unanswered points for the Saints. They went down 16-0. The third bad snap was a safety out of the end zone, and then Joey Felitsky found Preston Simcoe for 2 touchdown passes. Early in the second quarter, 16-0. All North Catholic in this one to start. But then late in the second quarter, you thought if Imani could get a drive and score, they get back in it. They did. Gabe Jenkins, a 1-yard run. ran in the 2-point conversion. It was 16-8 at halftime. Jenkins would add an 11-yard run. They missed the 2-point conversion, so they still trailed 16-14. They were pinned inside their own 10-yard line. Jenkins leaves the game with cramps. They direct snap the ball to David Davis. He goes 91 yards for a score to give Imani their first lead. He also had a big-time interception, as did DJ Craighead, one kind of interception that might have turned the game around. Davis then caught a lucky touchdown, a deflected pass that probably should have been intercepted, bounced off the defensive back hands, 29-yard pass from Jenkins, and then Tyvon Sewell gets a 6-yard run. 36 unanswered points. It was 16-0 North Catholic, and Imani Christian ends up winning by 20 points. Despite the negative 61 yards, Gabe Jenkins is a fantastic athlete. He runs for over 100 yards. Davis is over 100 yards, 133 for the touchdown and an interception, and a touchdown return for a touchdown. Joey Felitsky did throw for 156 yards, 2 more touchdowns, so he's up to 22, but he did get intercepted for the first 2 times this year. No running game whatsoever for North Catholic. The interior line play for Imani Christian, both offensively and defensively, was a big factor in this game for the Saints. They overcome a lot of mistakes. They made some changes at center. They put someone in there who hadn't played there. That kind of stabilized things, and then they just let their 2 Penn State recruits, Davis and Jenkins, take over, and they did that. So they're 6-0, even though this was non-conference, as you mentioned, 5-1. Imani Christian was 2, and North Catholic was ranked 3 as far as the top 5 goes. It might still be tough next week for North Catholic, back into the Western Hills, Don, with Central Valley in North Park, and it's East Allegheny next up for Imani Christian. But they prevail 36-16, and again, overcame mistakes and cramps and just pulled it together. And Leroy Johnson afterwards talking about, everyone looked me in the eye, said, we got this. And they certainly did with the 36 unanswered. Didn't start the way they wanted to, certainly finished the way they needed it to.
Got to clean that up, though. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, this is week 6, right? Week 5, technically the 6th week. And all that stuff needs to be cleaned up, and I'm sure they'll be working on that. Coach Johnson said, listen, we need that second half on the Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays before we get to Friday night. So we'll see how it plays out. But they did it tonight, so 6-0 for the Saints.
Kudos. The Saints go marching into week 6 with a perfect record. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Don.
All right. The great Bob Orquist checking in. Good matchup, non-conference. North Catholic no longer undefeated. They lose to Imani Christian. Yeah, you get away with that stuff in September. That ain't flying in late October, and more specifically into November. Couple of late final scores I want to pass along to you. Fort Cherry remains undefeated, 42-9. They beat Burgettstown in a Black Hills Conference game that lifts their record to 3-0 in conference play. In 2A Century Conference, Charleroi wins their first of the year, 45-26. They knock off winless Stowe Rocks. And in the Midwestern Athletic Conference, 2 in a row. Huzzah! For the Beaver Falls Tigers. That long, brutal losing streak behind them. They're now 2-1 in the MAC after a 12-7 victory over Freedom. So congratulations to the Black and Orange. And also Perry falls to Wheeling Central Catholic south of the border, 41-8. The Commodores remain winless. They're now 0-6. All right, Paul Patera, kind of to join us, probably our last recap of the night. He's spoiled me. I'm so used to him being the first.
Well, the game ended too early.
Yeah. So that gave you a chance to get on out of there and get home, and that's good. Mount Pleasant, very impressive in their interstate conference opener tonight as they take care of York, Paul.
41-7 was the final in that one. York got a first down on its first play of the game, and then only got one until there was some, garbage time at the end of the game. Total domination by the Mount Pleasant Vikings. Stephen Pradina, now that he's back in the offense, he adds another element to the Mount Pleasant Vikings. Rushed for 103 yards tonight, scored a touchdown, which came off a turnover on York's first possession, an interception, and then 40 yards later, Mount Pleasant's in the touchdown. The last play of the drive was the 20-yard run by Padina. And then Dane Firmstone had an interesting few minutes, scoring 3 touchdowns. Well, taking part in 3 touchdowns 3 different ways. First, a punt was blocked out of the end zone York was punting from the end zone. The punt was blocked. Firmstone plucked it at the 3 and ran it in for a touchdown. Then he had a 4-yard touchdown run and then a 14-yard touchdown pass. It was a 27-0 at halftime. Then Mount Pleasant's first drive of the second half, 14-yard run by Rage Kuchar. 2-point conversion was good, and we were in the mercy roll, and Mount Pleasant rolled to the 41-7 victory. Mount Pleasant looking good in the Interstate Conference opener. Next week, the Vikings will host Greensburg-Salem. Doesn't get any easier for the York Cougars next week, who fall to 2-4, 4 straight rough losses for the Cougars. The next week, they take on the undefeated Southmoreland Scotties, who are coached by Dustin Schoaf, who was a York Star running back not all that long ago, and he's just doing a great job out there at Southmoreland. So it's not going to get any easier for the York Cougars. Mount Pleasant, see if they can keep rolling. York ran a lot of swinging gate formation tonight and just didn't really get a lot of offense out of that. But the final score, once again, Mount Pleasant 41, York 7. The Vikings go to 4-2, 1-0 in the Interstate Conference.
I had a chance to have Coach Schoaf on our podcast. They were sophomore a couple weeks ago, our team of the week, and they're just getting better and getting better and getting better. That's your old stomping ground. So they're definitely one of the stories out of the Interstate Conference. Eventually, they got to play EF.
Yeah.
Everything runs through EF in that conference. So
that's for sure. But I was shocked that he got the job, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
What's he, 23 years old or something?
Yeah,
like
he's
that?
just a kid. Yeah. 1 year as an assistant, I think, at Jeanette after he got out of his playing days and his college days were over. So that's big time kudos. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome, sir. Have a great weekend.
You do the same. We fade to black, and when we return, the roundtable begins. Matt Vandriak in the house. That'll be entertaining as we continue on with the Week 5 edition of the WPIAL Scoreboard Show on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
This is Miles. He needs PT. Jess needs training. And Max needs both. And while they're all athletic, at AHN Sports Medicine, we know they each need a little something different to hit their goals. Our doctors and specialists pinpoint that difference and make a personalized plan to improve Miles's backswing and Max's throwing arm and Jess's form. Because at AHN Sports Medicine, we see you.
Hi, my name is Bobby McVeigh. I'm a registered dietetic technician and a Highmark Health employee. After my daughter started classes at Seton Hill, I was inspired to enroll for myself. The flexibility of the online bachelor's degree program gave me the final nudge to take this step. Seton Hill is dedicated to making a difference in people's lives, and it's already made a difference in mine. Learn more about online degrees and certificates at setonhill.edu/online.
Hi, this is Don Rebel. Join me Friday nights, 9:15 to 11 o'clock, along with a cast of thousands, with recaps from some of the night's key games. You can watch the Scoreboard Show Friday nights on the Trib Live High School Sports Network at tribhssn.triblive.com, or catch us on the radio on WMBS AM 590 and FM 101.1.
You're watching the Trib Live High School Sports Network.
Welcome back. Week 5 edition of the WPIAL Scoreboard Show here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network. We're going to be running down all the scores and getting some insight as well as we bring in Matt Vandriak joining us here on the round table. Matthew, good evening.
Hello, Don.
What are you pumping up to me here? What are you
Yeah, I'm ripped. What can I say?
Alpha male?
Yeah, workout plan. Trying to not walk away in a half hour with a bad back, so I should probably sit straight up. So there we go.
I want to, before we get going, you have done several Baldwin Highlander games. They have been in the news. Losing streak aside, first the unfortunate incident in a game, I think last week, that was caught on video, and everything nowadays is caught on video, kids. So please be careful. And then the letter that went out asking for mercy, I guess, is the best way to put it. Just general take on the aura surrounding that program right now.
Well, having done the games and having developed a relationship with Coach Dana Brown, I had a chance to talk to him last night off the record about everything that was going on. I'll give you what I can give you here. First of all, the whole mercy thing was kind of blown out of proportion. Baldwin has a very small roster. That's pretty well known. They had 4 guys injured this week, and then their starting quarterback transferred on top of the suspension for the player who was involved in the on-field accident incident last week. So they were having parents really hound athletic director Tony Cherico about safety, because with that few players, you have guys playing offense, defense, and special teams. Guys are playing 95% of the snaps. So they want to know what the safety contingency plan was. So Cherico, AD Cherico and head coach Brown, they talked about what they should do. Tony proposed playing 8-minute quarters. Dana did not want to do that. He wanted to give the kids 12-minute quarters. He said, if anything, just keep it the way that it is. So they, Tony reached out to their athletic directors, kind of let them know the situation he was in, and he sent that in confidentiality. Somehow that got leaked out, and then it got blown out of proportion. And then, kudos for Tony for answering and interviewing and granting answers for it. But Baldwin was not asking for mercy. They were just trying to figure out a contingency plan to make parents happy and let them know they were actually working to protect their player safety. The way that it worked out is that after this email made the media, and after got back to Coach Brown and his players, Coach Brown called a players-only meeting and said, what do you guys want to do? And the vote was unanimous. We're going to play 12-minute quarters, and we're going to be as competitive as we can. And that's what they did tonight. They played 12-minute quarters. The mercy rule wasn't acted, but they played 12-minute quarters until the second half when the mercy rule took place. So that's what happened there. As for the on-field incident, I can't speak for a 16-year-old kid because we've all been 16, and even as adults. The unfortunate thing is that it got viral. I don't know why people outside of Western Pennsylvania whose kids weren't playing in that game even care what happened. It was a bad look for a 16-year-old kid, but I've seen a lot worse. And he shouldn't rip a guy's helmet off by the face mask, but he didn't punch him. He didn't forearm shiver him. He didn't elbow him. He slapped him and was punished accordingly for it. Then it got blown out of proportion to where everyone in the world started seeing it, because you got these social media outlets that just can't let it well enough alone. So that's what happened with that. The player was suspended for 2 games by the WPIAL mandate. An additional game was added on to it. And Coach Brown suggested additional discipline, which I'm not going to get into. But one of those things is that the player's not allowed to practice, but he's expected to be at practice every day, show up, whether it's carry water, wash uniforms, whatever, still be part of the team, and he's doing that. So that is how this was handled.
Good.
And I'll go to bat for Dana Brown. I would rather have a coach who wants to discipline and develop a player and teach him from a bad situation than a guy who's going to kick a guy to the curb and not be part of the team anymore. Wins and losses aside, give me the guy who's coaching up my son to be a better man than a guy who's trying to make a better football player.
Yeah, the whole outcry was ridiculous. Again, it's sort of like youth sports. You got too many adults that are weighing in, that feel that they need to have this strong opine over scholastic sports. You have district officials, you have coaches, you have administrators that will do all that stuff. It's a very unfortunate situation.
It was a bad
hopefully it has to get better.
It has to get better. It was a bad look. And then the other end of it too is that, you have Baldwin in a tough situation. They don't want to forfeit games. They want to play. They want to give their kids a chance to play. They want to give their opponents a chance to play. And then people start riding on them for asking for mercy, which they truly 100%, that was not 100% correct what they said. And then riding on them that it's a bad look, this and that. And then what happens 2 days later? Fox Chapel asks for the same thing.
Yeah.
Baldwin and Fox Chapel are in similar situations. They're overmatched in the classification they're in. They do not have success in high school football on the level they were in or the previous levels they were in. So what's the answer here? I think the WPIAL needs to maybe look at how they set things up. I think you really need to start taking into account roster size and success. If teams can be moved up because of their success, teams should be able to play down because of a lack of success or roster size, because otherwise you're going to start having, and it's been more prevalent over the last few years, you're going to start having more and more of these forfeit games. Now, granted, Springdale, that's a whole different situation. They had 20 guys to start the season. I think they were down to 14 or less for this week, and 3 guys that were like on the fence. So you can't go into a game with 11 guys. You can't do that. And there's a good chance that they might not have enough guys to go next week either, because you're going from what am I looking for here? From the frying pan into the fire, going from Leedsburg to Clareton the following week.
Well,
so maybe Whitfield needs to look at the PIHL, the way they do things, and maybe you come up with an open class. And teams like Baldwin, Fox Chapel, Springdale, and the Fayette County schools that don't play, let them have their own classification to play each other, and they build the program. But you can't live there either, like some of these teams have.
Right. First of all, I don't think it's a WPIL thing. I think it's they're doing what's mandated by the state.
That is correct. Yes.
The PIAA sets all the numbers based on enrollment, all that stuff, and for them to do something like that, it would have to come from the governing body of the state, not District 7.
I misspoke there. He's the wrong 4 letters.
Yeah, no. But the in the Baldwin Fox Chapel situation is different. It's to the point, in my opinion, because this never happened before. This, remember the national news that was made in 2008 when Avella had a cheerleader dress just so that they could field a team. You didn't have schools, unable to field teams. If you are starting the season with a roster of 20 bodies, attrition's going to happen. And most of those 20 bodies aren't supreme athletes either. They're probably, they're coming out to play with their buddies because they know they need numbers. Some of these schools, I think, need to really consider whether they can go forth maintaining the program or if they have to look into the co-op, because you can't start a season with rosters of 20 people. That it's going to lead to this all of a sudden rash of postponements.
Yeah, we've seen it over the years, especially with smaller classifications. I mean, you remember Imani Christian before the resurgence of Leroy Johnson, and with the co-op through Propel, they were forfeiting games because they had 12 or 13 guys available to play on that night. You remember back in the waning days of Wilkinsburg, I think it wasn't Deshae Townsend, it was William Gay went to a Wilkinsburg game just to give those guys support because they were dressing 13 guys a night. Yeah. And that's a problem on small schools. The problem for Springdale, that program is down right now. I mean, maybe you have to look at a co-op opportunity, but I mean, if you want to play it on a small school level, I don't know how you can remedy that. But on the larger schools, you gotta have the option of being able to play down if you're going to force teams to play up. And that's my take on that. As far as social media goes, I'm going to say a real short thing on social media, like you just said. Adults need to let kids play the game. Social media, I've heard people say, is a place where the voiceless have voices. Social media is a place where cowards talk too much with no repercussions. And that's the way it is, and those are all adults.
Yep. And I don't think either one of us are big social media people. So
Facebook's in the
that in and of itself speaks volumes for how we feel.
Exactly. Anyway, we had a good.
All right, let's get to some football talk.
Yeah,
the show's almost over. Let's get to some football talk.
Good God, already?
Everybody's playing now. All the classifications have started up, so you get to actually choose where we're going to start here.
Let's just start from the top and work our way down. It seems there was a lot better games on the top of the brackets this week.
6A for first place and possibly the regular season championship. Central Catholic 21, North Allegheny 6. Hempfield ends a 2-game skid. They beat Cannon McMillan 38-27. First win of the year from Mount Lebanon. They go to Seneca Valley and win 41-20. And in the non-conference game, Norwin 21, North Hill 17. Knights 4-2. Big showdown with Hempfield next week. Tristan Tavares, their outstanding quarterback, injured, did not return.
Yeah, I heard that recap from Sean Saputo, so we hope that Tristan Tavares is going to be okay because he's had a sensational season. And what a resurgent year it's been for Norwin as well.
Right.
Tough loss for Seneca Valley because, as you mentioned, with the way that the play shakes down, you got a lot of teams fighting for those last couple of spots. And Seneca Valley taking that loss after a good victory the previous week, that hurts their chances. Hempfield, good to see the Spartans competitive. Remember a couple of years ago down on 5A when Hempfield got that really good start, and then they had a rash of injuries that derailed their season. So hopefully Tristan's okay. Hopefully it's what Sean said. It may have been a precautionary thing. It was a non-conference game. And hopefully he can get back out there, 1, because he's a great player. 2, it's been a great year for Norwin. And 3, you definitely want to play in that local rivalry.
Yep. Oh, the Allegheny 6 is off and rolling. A couple of dandies. Peters Township comes back. They knock off Upper St. Clair, 24-20. First loss for the Panthers. Moon bounces back. They lost last week to Seneca Valley. They win at home over Bethel Park in a good one, 23-20. And then the game you called, South Bay at 49, Baldwin 13.
Yeah, we'll start with Peters Township, Upper St. Clair. That was considered to be the game of the year, probably in Class 5A. It lived up to the hype. Remember last year, though, it was Upper St. Clair that beat Peters Township in the regular season. And then fate turned the other way in the semifinals when the Indians got the win. Moon, I saw Moon twice earlier this season. They were a team that kept getting better, a team that was talked about as being a contender in this conference. And it's a Moon team, Don, who has 2 losses by a combined 9 points. And they lost to 2 good teams. They lost to a 6A school, and then they lost to a good Penn Trafford team, too. So Moon is still on the hunt. Bethel Park and South Fayette will play next week. So that'll be an interesting – I'm sorry, Bethel Park will play Baldwin next week. So a chance for the Blackhawks to add to their win total. South Fayette, the backyard rival game against Upper St. Clair. Yeah. And then Peters Township and Moon. That's going to be a good one as well. Let's see where the Tigers are at, because that's the measuring stick right now in the conference. For Baldwin, I'm going to say one thing. It was the best first quarter of football they played this year. They were down 7-0 after the opening quarter. South Fayette scored 35 in the second quarter. Back-to-back defensive touchdowns and a fumble recovery on the 1 yard that led to a touchdown the next play. That's what put that one out of reach. So the Highlanders were competitive in the opening quarter, and we'll see what they can do if they can get something going next week whenever they take on the Blackhawks.
Big East Conference, Woodland Hills rolls at home over Latrobe, 33-9. They are now 2-0, tied for first place with Armstrong. The Riverhawks stunned Gateway 29-28, handing the Gators their first conference loss. And Kiscaria, their first conference victory. They win at home over Franklin Regional 14-7.
Woodland Hills is definitely one of the contenders outside of the Allegheny 6. And we're at the point now we can talk about playoffs. There's a good chance you're going to have 5 of the 6 teams from the Allegheny 6 make the playoffs again. Yep. So Woodland Hills, I would say, is the other contender with Pine Richland. Below those teams, I think you have a lot of teams that are trying to get in the playoffs. Gateway's trying to get healthy. They've had a lot of injuries that kind of derailed the early part of their season. Penn Trafford looks good. Don't want to throw any shade their way. They've done a good job, and they got a quality win over Moon, as I mentioned, in that non-conference game. Penn Hills, I'm not sure what we get with Penn Hills. They started off very Jekyll, and then they've kind of turned Mr. Hyde the rest of the way here as they've come on. So we're not sure we got with that team yet. Pine Richland looks good. I think they're going to be a player here, and Woodland Hills, as you said too, they look good. Scoop Smith, he is one of the top guys in the WPIAL for sure.
Northeast Conference tonight, Pine Richland, as expected, 63-3 over Fox Chapel. Tomorrow, good one, homecoming at Shaler after the big parade through town. Penn Hills, Shaler, both teams are 1-0 early in the NAC.
Big win, big game for the winner of that as well, because you're looking at trying to get that guaranteed spot in the playoffs. And Shaler down a bit over the last couple of weeks. Penn Hills the same thing. They're up and they've been a little bit shaky this season. So big game for them as far as playoff positioning goes. And piece of advice for anybody in the area: stay away from Mount Royal Boulevard for about 4 hours.
Yes, that is correct. Non-conference, Penn Trafford, you talked about the Warriors earlier. They're now 5-1. They win at Plum 33-14. It was opening night in all 3 conferences in Class 4A. We'll start with the Big 6. Thomas Jefferson, they're 5-1, but man, they don't look like TJ. They win at Bell Vernon 14-10 to win their conference opener. Char Valley has the same record. They're 1-0 in the conference, 5-1 overall after winning big at Laurel Highlands 55-7. And Trinity hosting Thomas Jefferson next week. The Hillers win big at Ringgold 48-14.
Good win for Trinity. Don, that ends a 3-game losing streak, so that gets them back in the mix. Trinity was a team that was talked about in the preseason as being a potential contender in this conference as well. Thomas Jefferson, it's not pretty, but they're still winning. And they're actually record-wise better than they were last season. Remember, I think we might have this conversation. Is this the same TJ? And then the playoffs hit, and the TJ machine got to rolling. So Chartiers Valley, I think one of the surprises of the WPIL. Their only loss was to South Fayette in the season opener, and since then they've been on tear. I saw them a couple weeks ago against Baldwin. They looked really good and continuing to play impressive football. So we'll see how that plays out as the season goes on.
One thing, talking to Coach Bill Chirpak, he said that really it's concerning him because we're at the midway point now, is where they have always been better than other teams is in the trenches, and that ain't happening right now. They're struggling up front. That's why he is very concerned heading into the second half of the regular season. Parkway Conference openers, a little bit of an eyebrow raised up at Taggart Stadium in Newcastle. Red Hurricanes score with 26 seconds left. It's the difference as they win over Aliquippa 18-12. Next week, Newcastle hosts Montour. The Spartans won their conference opener 28-7 over Blackhawk. And West Allegheny, look out, 70-0. They win at Ambridge.
West Allegheny obviously a little frustrated over the way the season has been playing out, so they decided to take it all out on Ambridge tonight. Aliquippa talking about teams that, might be concerned. Second loss of the season for the Quips, and a couple of close victories as well. So see what the Aliquippa Quips do with Mike Warfield back as head coach as they approach the second half of the season. I saw them on tour earlier this season as well. They had a tough outing against Moon, but they seem to they end a losing streak and they're back on it. And conference play now, so that's what matters. Blackhawk and Ambridge, maybe next week.
Maybe next week. Greater Allegheny Conference, or as we call it, the GAC openers. Keemon Spell, if he's healthy, that's probably the team to beat, the McKeesport Tigers. They win big in their conference opener, 46-7 over Hampton. Mars also winning big in their conference opener, 46-0 over West Mifflin. And Indiana by a touchdown over Knock, 21-14.
That is day and night. Keemon Spell back. McKeesport Tigers instant contender. But even without Keemon Spell, they give up for St. Clair quite the game last week. And then they roll over Hampton tonight by putting a spell on the Talbots. Mars, Planets, good start to the season. Not the stiffest test to start GAC play, but a good win nonetheless to get it going. And we'll see what happens between Indiana, Hampton, West Mifflin, and Knox for that third playoff spot in there. So the battle will continue. And top heavy there, I think McKeesport and Mars are definitely locks.
3A, the Western Hills Conference. How about this schedule? This gauntlet of 4 weeks now completed for Avonworth. At Aliquippa, home to Thomas Jefferson, home to Hopewell, at Central Valley, and you come away with 4 one-sided victories. They win tonight at Sarge Elbert, 34-6 over Central Valley, handing the Warriors their first conference loss. Hopewell ends a 2-game skid. They win 48-0 over Quaker Valley. And Beaver big over McGuffey, 42-6 in the Western Hills.
Western Hills looking to be the strongest conference in 3A, and Avonworth is the real deal. I mean, you think maybe an early season win over Aliquippa, it's early in the season, what are we figuring out? They've proven the last few weeks, you said, that it's a tough schedule. Not only have they won, they have been dominant in those victories as well. So Duke Joncourt got something special going on up there at Lenzner Field.
Indeed. Allegheny 7 Conference, quietly, the Freeport Yellow Jackets are now 6-0. They're 3-0 atop the conference. They win handily at Valley, 42-7. Highlands 35-0 over Deer Lakes. And a good one tonight at Churchman Memorial. Burrell 29, East Allegheny 28.
Allegheny 7, Don. I think it's a 2-team race. It's good to see the surprise maybe the Freeport is, but the rest of the conference is down except for the Imani Christian Saints, who showed what they were about tonight. Top matchup against North Catholic, and it was all Saints. They came marching into historic Graham Field and marched out with the W.
Interstate Conference openers. Elizabeth Forward 49, Greensburg Salem 7. Mount Pleasant 41-7 over York, and really one of the great stories of this season thus far, Southmoreland 23, Derry 11. The Skies are now 6-0.
New head coach, new quarterback, and Southmoreland rolling. An undefeated 6. I don't think anybody saw that coming. That might be the story of the year behind. That might be the story of the year actually in the WPIAL. And Elizabeth Ford, of course, is still to play the Warriors, who was the conference preseason favorite. So we'll see how it stacks up down the line. But those two teams right now are definitely the cream of the crop in what's been an otherwise topsy-turvy interstate.
I think it is the story of the year, and how far it goes remains to be seen. They still have a big one with the EF coming up, but really all the offseason talk this year was they hired this 23-year-old coach, and their star quarterback is transferring out. Now, and then that became kind of a mess, and so their football team was actually forgotten, and here they have been so impressive.
It's a good story. It's good to see. Yep. It's good to see that, when a team gets spurned by a player, they're able to regroup as a team and rally behind a new coach. Maybe that youthful energy really has sparked this team this year too.
They call it a team for a reason, no question. A couple non-conference finals. You alluded to Imani Christian remaining undefeated, 36-16 over North Catholic. Washington now 5-1. They win over South Park, 48-7, third straight loss for the Eagles. Let's go to the 2A now. In the Century Conference, last night, Seton LaSalle 41-16 over Waynesburg Central. Rebels now 3-0. Keystone Oaks tonight over Carleton 42-18. Golden Eagles 3-0. And Charleroi wins their first. Cougars 45, Stowe Rocks 26.
Seton LaSalle, after that week 0 thumping, has really rebounded to get back to being they were in the championship game last year. Washington looks good early on. Keystone Oaks a little bit resurgent. I still think it's a 2-team race there right now in the Century Conference, and we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But Seton LaSalle and Washington circle that one.
Big one next week. Keystone Oaks goes to Washington to challenge the Little Prexies. Midwestern Athletic Conference, Western Beaver undefeated and all alone in first place now. They beat Riverside 48-19, first conference loss for the Panthers. First conference loss for Elwood City. Wolverines fall at New Brighton 14-12, ending the Lions' 2-game skid. 2 wins in a row for Beaver Falls after that 15-game losing streak. They defeat Freedom 12-7, and Mohawk a winner, ending a 4-game skid 28-21 over Union.
When the lights go on in Industry PA, Western Beaver shines. And new lights at the stadium, and the Golden Beavers are ahead of the pack and control their own destiny right now in this Midwestern Conference. The rest of the teams, I think Elwood City, probably New Brighton's been a surprise this year, but you got a lot of mushy mid the rest of the way there in Western Beaver, the shining star under the bright lights.
Look at you, man. You should be a headline writer. Allegheny Conference in 2A, your Steel Valley Ironmen winners tonight over Shadyside Academy 42-6. The Maroon and Gold go to 2-0. Half game behind 3-0, 6-0 South Allegheny. Gladiators big over Ligonier Valley 62-14 tomorrow evening at Moon Stadium. Our Lady of the Sacred Heart against Apollo Ridge.
Kudos to South Allegheny, Don, 6-0 for the first time in program history, starting back in 1966. South Allegheny now 6-0. And kudos to the Ironmen after a couple of non-conference losses, which was very similar to last season, able to rebound with a couple of victories. And kudos to Shadyside Academy. Thanks for showing up for this one.
That's right. All right, let's go to Class A now. Black Hills Conference, Fort Cherry remains undefeated. They defeat Burgettstown 42-9. Bishop Canevin is undefeated in conference play, 32-0 over Chartiers Houston. Eventually will get Rangers Crusaders. And Cornell, a 47-18 winner over Sarah Catholic.
Fort Cherry is, they're head and shoulders above everybody, I think, in the Black Hills Conference, and with the exception of Clareton, probably in the entire single A classification. Matt Stig is a generational talent. You don't see guys do what he's done. He's setting records. He's making all-time records, and that's a small school. It takes you back to remember Mike Vernillo back in Fort Cherry, as far as single A lore and that goes. But Bishop Canevin could make some noise. Cornell, we'll see. Monessen still in the mix as far as record goes as well. Good to see the Greyhounds at least semi-resurgent. That's part of your playoff field from the Black Hills Conference as well. But I think everybody's looking ahead to what's going to come up in the postseason. And can Fort Cherry and Clairton fend off the rest and meet again at Acrisure Stadium?
Big Seven Conference, traditionally a strong conference this year. The Shannick and Laurel appear to be the teams to beat Southside as well. The Shannick and Laurel both go to 2-0 in conference play. Lancers 48, Shenango 7, Spartans 50, and Northgate nothing. Tomorrow, two teams looking for their first win. In Herman, Summit Academy hosting Rochester.
Good to see Rochester. There's another team, Don, who had injuries deplete the roster and then put them in forfeit situation the week before. So good to see they're healthy enough to at least get out there. And tough to see Rochester in that spot, too. I mean, such a good single-A program for all those years. A team that played in many WPIAL championship games. And, unfortunately anymore, when you're a small school and you're rebuilding, you're legitimately rebuilding. Like, you're not just rebuilding, like, hoping to win with some younger players. You're just hoping to have enough players to get through.
Yeah, you're talking about Rochester's Springdale cutting the same cloth that once traditional power in Class A. Even recently, a team that routinely made the playoffs, going through hard times. Their game tonight against Leechburg was postponed. The two games that did take place tonight in the Eastern Conference, Clairton 57, Jeanette nothing. Ouch. And Fraser defeats Brentwood 28-21. Both those teams now 1-2 in conference play tomorrow. Good one in Oakmont at noon. Riverview hosting Greensburg Central Catholic.
Big game between Riverview and Greensburg Central Catholic, trying to climb into playoff position versus each other. Riverview kind of was on the up last season and trending in the right direction here this season as well. They've been tough at home, and they got a good running game there as well. Clairton, I'm surprised not that they won, but how one-sided it was. I thought Jeanette would give them better, but maybe it's not Jeanette that didn't give them better. Clairton is just that good. And that's who's scheduled to play Springdale next week. So if that game takes place, as Uncle Jesse from Full House would say, have mercy.
If that doesn't take place, and I think right now the odds are probably more likely it won't, that will be two games that the Bears will have had postponed, with including that Shadyside Academy game. It doesn't help them, doesn't help with stats, but man, they're going to be kind of fresh come November, aren't they?
They're also going to lose two home games, which is kind of not cool.
Yeah, no, that's...
but yeah, Springdale, it's a whole different set of circumstances. Springdale legitimately doesn't have enough players to play. Hopefully they have enough guys to at least show up. Maybe they can come up with some type of deal with Clairton where they do play, a shortened quarters or whatever else they can do. Just looking at the unfortunate thing for Leechburg, talking about stats, is that Tim Andrews having a great season. He was 4 yards out of being the leading rusher in the WPIAL coming into this week, and he probably would have had a comfortable lead had he been able to play this week. But that's the way that the cookie crumbles, I guess, sometimes. And unfortunately for the Blue Devils, they didn't get to get that game in. But good season for Leechburg. It seems like this has been the story for the last few years. Leechburg's put together a good team, a playoff contender, but they just can't get past Clairton. And it's what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
16-0-1. Is that what Clairton is all time against Leechburg, or has it increased since the last time I called that game?
No, I think that's about in that neighborhood, yeah. And going back to our original discussion, something's got to change. You can't just keep having these week to week where you have no idea if your game's going to be played or not. It's just not right on many fronts. Finally, Tri-County South. Jefferson Morgan remains undefeated overall, 40-6 over West Green. California is 3-0 in the conference, 53-0 over Avella. 53-0 over Mapletown. Avella is now 5-1. They win 20-17 at Beth Center, and Bentworth a 35-6 winner at Carmichael's.
Yeah, Avella, after being on the wrong side of that trouncing last week against California, bounces back. Great story there. Hopefully the Eagles can stay healthy and keep this running, because they're a playoff team, and they still have a game left against Jefferson Morgan too. So anything can happen. Even though, as you mentioned earlier, Jefferson Morgan hasn't lost a regular season game in 2 seasons now. 23 was the last time they lost a regular season game in the TCS. Big win for Bentworth tonight, Don, because I think that you have a very top-heavy Tri-County South. If you want to throw Avella in there as one of the top-heavy teams. So Bentworth with that victory and with the Beth Center loss against Avella, that really puts the Bearcats in control of their own destiny for trying to grab that last playoff spot. Of course, they still have games left against some of the teams above them as well. Yeah. And we all know anything can happen in the Tri-County South, but we know one thing's for sure, they're probably not going to win a playoff.
We'll get Matt Vandriak's final thoughts on Week 5 as we begin to wrap up. I'll just run down some of these City League and independent schedule or final scores. One Class A non-conference final, Southside 21-7 over Monessen. Second straight loss for the Hounds. Rams are now 5-1. City League last night, Westinghouse 44, Alderdice 16. Bulldogs remain undefeated. First loss in the City League for the Dragons. And tonight, University Prep over Brashear 30-7. Wildcats are 3-0. They end with Alderdice next week and Westinghouse in a big one in 2 weeks. Independence, Martins Ferry, the Purple Riders come riding in to Uniontown and defeat the Red Raiders 59-13. Butler 44, Connellsville 27. Albert Gallatin now 6-0. Colonial 63 at the Allegheny Campers 56. I'm not sure what their mascot would be. And Wheeling Central Catholic 41, Perry 8. If you remember the old Beverly Hillbillies show when Jethro got one of those campers down by the ocean, that comes to mind for Allegheny.
Yeah, that's probably more like a van down by the river after what happened tonight. But let's talk City League real quick. Westinghouse again. Dante Robinson and company continue to do what they do. They will be the regular season champions unless University Prep's able to pull an upset somewhere. And as Charlie Pugh sang, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again, because Westinghouse and Alderdice will see each other again at Couplesfield in the playoffs. Independence, going on what we talked about. Butler, congratulations. That's a team that was downtrodden for a long time. Enrollment-wise, the largest school in the WPIAL, forced into 6A, where to say they had minimal success would be an understatement. They were getting killed. They had less than 30 players, I think, as a 6A school the last year they did it. They've done it the right way. They've got back into the independent. They've rebuilt the program. They have numbers. They've had success. And all signs are pointing towards them being back in the WPIAL next year. Hopefully Albert Gallatin does the same thing. Same reason why they moved out. They were playing in, 5A, and were getting smoked. Outscored 427-7, I think, in conference play their last year. They built it well, but you can't live in independent land forever. Or, I don't know, maybe you can. But depending on where they align at next year, it'd be a good time for them to come back. It's also why Connellsville pulled out. Connellsville had a pretty successful final season on 4A, but then they got pushed to 5A, and we're this didn't work for us before. We're not going to do it again. Brownsville right now, I don't know, they're stuck in purgatory. They can't even field enough players to play an independent game. And for Uniontown, the Red Raiders, they kind of probably wish that game was postponed because Martins Ferry came in and stomped the proverbial mud hole into the boys from Utah.
Real quick, final thoughts. Week 5 in the books.
5A is still the best conference in the WPIAL. The Allegheny 6 conference is still the toughest conference in the WPIAL, and we're going to have 5 teams make the playoffs again because those teams are all good. It's going to be fun to watch how that shakes out the rest of the way. 6A, we had our big matchup here between Central and North Allegheny. They might see each other again. What's the repetitive process has been that Central wins in the regular season, North Allegheny wins in the playoffs. Hope Tristan Navarez is going to be okay because that threw a new wrinkle into 6A, gave us something to look forward to. And 2A, South Park, trending in the wrong direction. With the South Allegheny Gladiators, Don, everything's aligning right for them. And maybe it's a bit of a down year in 2A, but if they can get past Steel Valley, it might be the Gladiators' turn to make some noise. They won a playoff game for the first time last year. So I saw them last year. They were trending in the right direction last year. They took a loss to Steel Valley in the season finale, but they got that playoff win. They've brought a lot of guys back. They have a good foundation, a good coaching staff, and they have numbers. I think this might be the Gladiators could be the team to beat the rest of the way in 2A. Everything else is still a lot to be decided between now and the end of the regular season.
Month of football left in the regular season. We get into October football and week 6 next week. We still have a couple games, 4 games in total. 2 of them you can watch on Trib HSSN tomorrow to officially close the books on Week 5. Big thanks to Matt Vandriak for joining us. Our producer, Chris Lackner, thanks to him as well. I'm Don Rebel. We thank you for joining us here on the Week 5 edition of the WPIAL Scoreboard Show on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.